What's up guys, this is PGAPG. Today I'm going to be covering a very interesting video. We're going to be talking about Paleo-Hebrew. Now the significance about Paleo-Hebrew is that this is the language that Enoch was speaking. This is the language that all of the generations from Adam to Noah were speaking prior to the flood. This is also called Proto-Hebrew, just pre-cannanite Hebrew. And the significance about this language, I think, bridges the gap between uninformed Christians, of course, but also Jews that don't believe in Jesus Christ, and also atheists. There is significant evidence for the reality of Jesus in the Hebrew text, and a part of that is because of God. A huge part of that is because of God. This is a language that has been called the language of angels and men. So, in the time of Enoch, in the time of Noah, in the time where the Watchers descended upon Mount Hermon and gave wisdoms to human beings that we did not yet deserve, this was the language that was spoken. So, the language of angels and men, right? So, I have it backwards there on the screen, but these are the 22 letters of the Old Hebrew alphabet. Now, it never changed from 22, which is a number of completion, but all of these, pictographic, numerical, and phonetic, that's 3 things that this language is. Now, all of these have individual meanings, and it gets really deep, guys. I mean, I've been researching this, and it looks like if you go back to the words in the beginning, or even the older word for God, which Yahweh was based off of. Everyone knows the HVHY that later became Jehovah. Well, it all begins with this Proto-Hebrew, right? So, anyways. So, Proto-Hebrew is the oldest language, right? This was used prior to the flood. There are well over 200 accounts of the flood all around the world from different civilizations. They all account for a historical flood, historically through their stories of how the world began or how it was reset. Now, in these stories, they all have very similar characters, very similar stories in regards to a boat and 8 families on that boat. So we have the Egyptian account, the Egyptian creator god Tem, who was the creation god Tem, who was responsible for the primeval flood, who covered the entire earth and destroyed all of mankind except those in Tem's boat. You have the Assyrian or Sumerian account of this as well, and this is described as the oldest language, right? Sumerian cuneiform tablets, clay tablets. This is technically the second oldest language because this existed through the lineage of Noah before that. But nonetheless, the Sumerian account is Gilgamesh following Nimrod, who in Sumerian is described as the name En-Merkar, was king over all earth. He was an egotistical guy. Utnapishtim was warned by the god Ea in a dream. He and some craftsmen built a large boat. He then loaded it with his family, the craftsmen, and the seed of all living creatures. The waters of the abyss rose up, and it stormed for 6 days. This is in Sumer, guys. This is the old account of how things came to be in the first civilization, where Mesopotamia is, and everything. This is the groundings to prove. Lord Arata is a character in the Sumerian stories, and Lord Arata is the Lord of Mount Ararat. Now, if any of you know your Bible, the Lord of Mount Ararat is Noah. Noah lived on Mount Ararat with his family. That is nearby where the ark landed, along the border of Turkey and Armenia. Now, this is where they settled, and in this time, Ham did some interesting things. Ham actually revealed Noah's nakedness, right? But the key there is that he actually stole a holy garment. Now, this is a garment that Ham stole when he left the family and went further south, actually starting the entire civilization of Sumeria. Now, Ham passed this garment down to his son, and his son, who I believe is Cush, passed it down to Nimrod, or in the Sumerian account, in Merkar. Now, in Merkar, during his wedding ceremony, wore the garment with his wife Inanna. Now, Inanna is the person that all occult and sex magic, all of this terrible stuff, all of the esoteric knowledge, this all comes from this union, okay? You talk about New Age astrology and everyone obsessing over the moon and the sun and the moon goddess. Well, Inanna was the first moon goddess, so-called. And I'm not going to get into that. That's for another video. There's a lot to say there. But nonetheless, in regards to Proto-Hebrew, we can prove that God exists and that Jesus exists because this language has managed to predict the future. It is a prophetic language that reveals the truth from the past to the present to the future. Okay? Let me go through this with everybody. So, the pre-cannanite word for God, a title, let's say, is Elohim. In the pre-cannanite text, it is Yod He Vav He, okay? A Yod, which is numerically represented by the number 10, is that little arm. It's a right arm or the right hand, like the right hand of God, okay? So that's the first letter, and the second is He. He is this little symbol that looks like a man. The number 5 is not the symbol for man, though, but this symbol represents, let me see, grace. 5 is the number of grace, and it also means behold. Okay, so Yod, He, Vav, this is the third letter, that is the number of man, number 6. And the Vav represents the union between the heavens and the earth. Think of this as a suction cup or some sort of dimensional pathway from the heavens to the earth. That's literally what the Vav is, okay? All right, now altogether that is Yod He, Vav He. Behold the nail, behold the hand. Now guys, that is absolutely incredible. Just the ancient pre-cannanite word for God means behold the hand, behold the nail. That's just non-coincidental, you know? I mean, the people living at that time were probably wondering, why does Yod He Vav He mean behold the hand, behold the nail? Like, that makes no sense. Meanwhile, it is predicting the future of Jesus' sacrifice. The God-man, the head man. That is, when I first made this realization, I was like, just completely mind blown. Okay, but it doesn't stop there. Speaking of in the beginning, the words in the beginning, when looked at through Proto-Hebrew, is also extremely telling. So, in our English Bibles, in the beginning is 3 words, obviously. And then in the Jewish Tanakh or Torah, you have the word Bereshit. Now, Bereshit is 1 word that means 3 words in English, in the beginning, 1 and 3, interestingly enough. And it, Bereshit actually comes from the Proto-Hebrew, obviously, which I'll go into. But before I get into that, I wanted to take a moment of notice. So if you look at the old King James Bibles, for example, you know how in the very beginning, in Genesis, the first letter that starts the entire text, the entire Bible, is that one giant I and in the beginning. It's usually like a giant boxed-in I, and it's decorated with flowers or like some sort of calligraphy, kind of like a lot of these older books tend to emulate with that sort of design on the first letter. Well, Jewish rabbis actually say that the first letter of any text should denote and represent the entire sentence, the entire paragraph, the entire page, and even the entire text. Now, we obviously as Christians got this from the Jews. The Jewish rabbi actually got this from Moses. It is said that Moses, when receiving the Ten Commandments, received it with the first letter designed in this manner, which started the tradition. Now, other than this, we can go back to the Proto-Hebrew version of in the beginning, or Bereshit, or, and I wrote it, so you'll have to forgive me, it is read from right to left, right? So that is starting with this symbol, going all the way to the Tav, all right? And I'm going to go into each individual symbol and the significance of what this means, this originating word or words for in the beginning, these symbols here, okay? Now the first symbol when reading from right to left is the resh. Now the bet. The bet is this symbol right here. That's a symbol for home. The beginning symbol is the symbol for home. This is our home, and it is the beginning of the word. Now after the resh, after the bet, we have the resh, which is the symbol right here. It looks like a man's head. Interestingly enough, the meaning of that is the headman, or God-man, represented by number 200. After the resh, we have the aleph. The aleph is right here, represented by the bull's head. Now the horns here are a symbol of authority. The originating symbol for authority are the horns on the aleph of the bull's head. This is why Satan, or devils or demons, are shown in mythology and stories as having these horns. It's because they want that authority, they want your attention, and they want you to listen. Here, I have the authority. But the originating meaning, of course, resides with God, as all things do. So the aleph, symbolically, is authority, God, and also 1 in 3 parts, and beginning. The reason it means 1 in 3 parts is because this Proto-Hebrew symbol, when it became the new Jewish symbol, the newer Jewish symbol for the aleph, it is actually a symbol made out of 3 parts. Each of those parts are 10, 6, and 10, making 26, another number of completion. Just like the word that we just went over for God, Yod, He, Vav, He, those symbols together also make up 26. So we have the symbol for God, essentially. And so after the aleph, we have the shin. The shin is the number represented by 300. Not like the Spartan 300 that died fighting the Persians, a brutal death, a brutal sacrifice, but for Gideon's 300. These were 300 warriors that were protected by God truthfully when fighting armies of men and never lost a single soldier. Now Shin, just like Shem, the son of Noah, of the 3 sons of Noah, right? We have a 3-pronged crown, just like the Trinity, or the 3 sons of Noah, but Shem had the highest blessing, from which we have the genealogy of all the way from Abraham to David to Jesus. So the Shin is the crown of God. And then after the Shin, we have the Yod. And of course, the Yod, let me find it real quick, is the right arm or the right hand of God, okay? Just like Jesus sits at the right hand or right hand side of God's throne. And we have the last symbol, which is the Tav. Now, I don't think I really have to describe to you what the Tav means, but if you need me to, it means in new beginnings, and of course today, just like a language that predicts the future, it represents Jesus. Now, let's go over the word from the very beginning. All together now. Home of the head man, or God man, who has the three-pointed crown, the Trinity. He is the right hand of God, right hand man, right hand of God, who will go to the cross. All of this is Bereshit, or in the beginning. It's absolutely incredible what revelations and what prophecies this language has embedded in its symbols and in its words. I can't say that enough, how much of a revelation I had when discovering all of this. And as I continue to study these Proto-Hebrew symbols, I begin to find more and more of these connections, guys. And it's too much for this to have somehow been, I mean, it had to be prophetic, because this was the originating language before Jesus, before any of this. So it is nothing but a prophetic language filled with prophetic words and symbols. One last thing that I wanted to talk about was right after in the beginning. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, there are obviously symbols for heaven and earth, but I wanted to talk about the symbol for and the, that joins heaven and earth. Now, interestingly enough, the symbol for and the is the Tav, which is the cross, the bull's head with authority, which is the Aleph, and also the Yod, which is, the Vav, which is the connection point between the heavens and the earth. Now, the connection point between the heavens and the earth, guys, it literally symbolizes what it is saying. The connection point between the heavens and the earth. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, connected by the Vav, literally showing you pictographically what it is saying. So, it's an incredible language, guys. I'm glad you're here for it. I thought that this was extremely interesting. I hope that you guys do as well. And personally, I think that you should consider showing this to some of your friends that might find this interesting, especially if you have some Jewish friends. Literally reveal to them that their own language proves the reality of Jesus Christ. You know, I mean, there's a time of true historical arrogancy, and it can be seen in their first version of their language. We are mere Gentiles, man. Got to show God's chosen people what's really going on here. But I thank y'all again. I hope you found this interesting. Goodbye.